Hey everybody, and welcome to patch 14.7. That's right, patch 14.7. This is the greatest patch note ever. Why? Because every newest patch note is the greatest patch note ever. And welcome to your host, Hashinshin with Box. Why am I the greatest host? Because I appear to be the only person anymore who cares about you, the average League of Legends player. Not about pro play, not about counter picking or the meta or anything like that, but I care about you enjoying the game, having fun with League of Legends, which is something increasingly difficult to do. So what do we have in this patch? I'm going to save my saltiness for later. For now, we're going to talk about what's in this patch. What's in this patch? We got a nerf to Fiora, Rek'Sai, Rel, and Volibear. We got some buffs going out to Galio, Karma, Kayn, Lux, Nami, Nasus, Olaf, Smolder, Sona, and Sylas. That's right, if you had Karma on your bingo being in the patch note again, write it down. Karma's back again in another patch note. We're spending more time on this champion. Really? Yes, actually, really. We are. As always, if you guys want to watch this, you can watch it. If you want to listen along, use it as a podcast, you can do it that way. If you want to just hear me be very frustrated with Riot, then you can do that too, because here we are together, me and you guys. So in this patch is the Skarner VGU. I have a video talking about that, but if you want to see some more information on that, you will not find that in this video because it would take far too long in these videos. These videos already stretch potentially up to an hour long. So it doesn't really, I don't really want to spend like an hour long video with 30 minutes. So then it's an hour, 30 minutes. Anyway, Skarner's getting a VGU. That includes a complete rework to his kit as well as his visuals. So his abilities will be completely different and his visuals will be completely different. Expect that coming out. Will he be overpowered? Yeah, probably. I mean, they always are. So here we go. Okay. DirectX 9 is being depreciated. If you still run on DirectX 9, oops, oh well, you're gone now. Let's go to our first champion, Camille. Camille's support has been good. Camille top is fine, not really that amazing, but it's, you know, it's fine. But Camille's support has been taking the world by storm, and by taking the world by storm, I mean it's been playable. Unfortunately, this has annoyed many Camille players who feel that she is no longer pickable, no longer playable in top lane, which is not true. She's perfectly fine in top lane. She just feels better to play in support given the current patch. So what are we doing for Camille? We are giga buffing her top lane to be broken, and then we are nerfing her support. I'm gonna stick by that one because I believe in that statement fully. I believe in that statement. Okay, I fully believe we're gonna be here in 2 weeks and we're gonna be going, well, we got to nerf down Camille top a little bit. I think a lot of people forget that Camille was buffed to be a very powerful stat check champion a few patches ago. I do patches every week, so I remember stuff like this. Camille was buffed and she is a stat check champion. She's not popular, she's not fun, but she's a very stat checky champion. They just gave her more stats to compensate the fact that her hook shot can no longer hook, because remember, if you think about top lane, right, because they pushed the walls back, it's now harder for her to hit a hook shot. How did they balance that out? They just gave her way more stats. Now the problem here is when we do the following changes. The bonus movement speed on her Q is going up from 30 to 40% to 30 to 50%. That means it used to be 20 to 40%, now it's 30 to 50%. Pretty decent buff on its own, but then the cooldown is going down from 9 to 6 to 9 to 5. Pretty good buff too. The outer cone damage on tactical sweep is going back up. It was 6 to 8%, I believe. They lowered it to 5 to 7%. Now it's going back up to 6 to 8%. Now remember, this is the damage that heals her. If she hits with the outer base, that's the amount of damage she heals you. So she heals on 6 to 8% post mitigation percent health damage on her tactical sweep. That is why Camille typically can stat check a lot of champions down. So doubling down on the tactical sweep stat checking is, pretty powerful. Now, to try to compensate for this, hook shots damage is being lowered from 80 to 200 to 60 to 180. So it's 20 less damage at all ranks. Now, obviously, as a champion is performing totally fine in top lane, it is normal to massively buff her Q, buff her W for a slight trade-off on her E. I'm not really sure what's going on with this one, but, Riot is Riot, so okay. Fiora is being nerfed. I'm going to read this. Fiora is a bit too strong. Really, is she? I hadn't noticed in the last 7 years. Especially in early game when they're supposed to be more of a skill matchups than... Wait, what? especially in early game, where they are supposed to be more of skill matchups than feel like she's winning by default. I don't know what that means. I think I can understand the thought here. The thought is that Fiora is stat checking people down early game when she's supposed to be a skill matchup. I think that's what they're trying to say. They just worded it in a way that English doesn't make sense. So we are going to adjust her ability to win sustained fights against other fighters by making a small change to her base AD. Basically, Riot doesn't want Fiora to just Q at you and auto attack you to death. Their solution to that is to lower base AD by 2. Now, that is a good way to go about it. I agree. They're originally going to nerf it by 3 damage, though. They're only nerfing it by 2 right now. I definitely feel 3 damage would feel much better. The only problem I have with this one is, I think that this, I talked about this in my patch preview video, but the problem I have with this nerf, I feel like this makes her bad matchups even worse, but it doesn't really affect her good matchups. As a champion who is a counter pick from hell, who many champions need to ban just because the Fiora exists, it helps the issue, but it doesn't really solve the issue. I don't think so many champions should have to permaban Fiora for their entire life, for their entire existence, forever and ever. I don't think other lanes have had a problem where there is one champion going on 8 years now that hard counters so much of the roster that every single game, every single time you want to play your champion, you have to ban Fiora. There are many, many, many champions like this, and although Fiora overall, statistically overall, is only a little overpowered, her ban rate maintains a very high amount because many champions, such as Jax, have to ban Fiora. Not Jax, who's the other? Kled, that's what I meant. Many champions such as Kled have to ban Fiora. Now, with her attack damage going down, that will help her matchups into champions like Jax, so Jax might actually be able to win it. Little known fact is Fiora has actually been destroying Jax for about 6 years now. But the problem here is this will make her matchups into things like Kennen worse, Jace worse, Darius worse, but it's not really going to make her matchups into things like Kled or Aatrox any more manageable. She will still stat check you into the ground, run you down, and therefore you will still have to ban her. I don't think Riot is really trying to solve the counterpick issue though, because I think Riot truly believes counterpicks are good for the game, healthy for the game, fun for the game, so long as they exist in top lane and only top lane. I don't know why counterpicks in top lane need to be so harsh, need to be so ridiculous, but this is just a design philosophy that for some reason they are just doubling down on and don't want to fix. Therefore, we are not solving the Fiora counterpick permaban issue. We are just making her win rate go down. That's it. We're just making her win rate go down. Cool. And that's an issue I kind of have. We're just win rate go down. Now problem gone. Me no think problem, win rate go down. Shockingly, last week when I talked about the Galio changes, I was very confused because I was like running the numbers and I was talking about the numbers and they didn't really add up. They didn't really make any sense. I said, even with a Rod of Ages, even going the health items, this is a nerf to the champion. Riot didn't seem to run the basic numbers on the champion. Like, they didn't seem to actually think about it, plug it into a calculator, run the numbers, stop to think about it. I don't know why they didn't do that, but they didn't. And because of that, when they were trying to trade off some of his numbers, they ended up doing a large nerf. Even when you built Galio exactly like how they wanted you to build him, even when you did that, he was nerfed from where he was before they did the changes to the champion. Again, I have noticed many times throughout doing patch notes, throughout talking about this game, that Riot does not seem to actually run basic numbers. So to give you an example on this, they nerfed the AP ratio and the damage reduction from his W, but then also nerfed the base amount. They said every 100 HP, you will get 1% damage reduction. Okay, but then they nerfed his base damage reduction by 6. Or sorry, by 5. His base damage reduction goes down by 5. By building Rod of Ages, it goes up by 6. You think, good, yay, he gets more damage reduction if he builds Rod of Ages. Wrong, because they also nerfed the AP ratio to his damage reduction. Meaning the very same AP on Rod of Ages meant that he has the same damage reduction. No, I'm not even joking. They literally mathed it out so poorly that before the patch and after the patch, if you went from building Lichbane to building Rod of Ages, you got the exact same damage reduction. Meaning literally anything other than Rod of Ages got nerfed. Then Rod of Ages also got nerfed because the AP ratio was lower. So then later on, as he completed more items with ability power, he got less damage reduction. No, I'm not joking. If you built Galio even as they wanted, if you built him with a Rod of Ages and a Proto Belt, and then you just went Death Cap, he ended up being nerfed. In their ideal, perfect fantasy world, where everyone built Galio exactly like how they wanted, they still nerfed the champion. Which is very confusing to me, because they literally did not run the basic numbers. I know this doesn't sound like a big deal. Oh, he went down by 2% win rate. Is that really the end of the world? It's more frustrating to me because they do this stuff all the time. Just earlier this season, we had this problem with A-Soul, where Riot overbuffed Aurelion Soul because they didn't just plug in his numbers and stop to think about it. They just decided, we want to do this. What numbers is right for this change? And they said, I don't know, nerf his damage reduction by like 5 and nerf the AP ratios, buff that, give him a health ratio. I'm sure it'll be fine. And somebody said, should we plug basic numbers into this equation? Should we use basic math? Should we just run a calculation to see if this is nerfed? It'll take 2 minutes. And they said, nah, we don't need to do that. But they did need to do that. They did need to just plug in basic numbers into their nerfs and be like, oh, that's a nerf, not a side grade change. Again, I know this doesn't seem like a big issue, but it's just, it's part of a larger problem with their balancing process that this continues to be an issue with the company just not running basic elementary math. Anyway, let's move on then. So Colossal Smash is getting its AP ratio unnerfed a little bit from 40% AP to 45% AP. Shield of Durand is getting its damage reduction unnerfed. So it was 25 to 45% damage reduction. It's going back to 25 to 45% damage reduction. Because remember when they changed this ability, they nerfed its AP ratio, they nerfed its magic resist ratio, but then they buffed its, so they gave it a health ratio. So now, since they've done these changes, he will, as compared to last patch, he will now be getting 5% more damage reduction, and the damage reduction per magic resist has been doubled. So instead of 4% per 100 magic resist, it's now 8% per 100 magic resist. So overall, this just makes old Galio significantly stronger, and if Galio builds magic resist, more power to him. Then Justice Punch is getting its 15 damage back, because once again, kind of a weird thing that they just nerfed Justice Punch randomly. I truly, once again, sorry to harp on this, don't think they plugged in the basic numbers, and they thought they were probably doing a buff because I'm going to say it once more time. They literally did not just plug in basic numbers, thought they were doing a buff, and then ended up nerfing Justice Punch to equal it out. Because in their mind, we're buffing him, we should nerf him somewhere. So they nerfed Justice Punch. But they weren't buffing him. So, oops. Okay, moving on to Karma. Bet you didn't think Karma would be in the patch notes again. Bingo, Karma's back. Ding, 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 ding. Let's read these. Karma's changes last patch landed very close to our goal, but we still want to do a little more to preserve her support power level. In order to do this, we're decoupling her E ranks from her mantra E numbers to make it more in line with the rest of her abilities, and make it less punishing if you don't dump skill points into E. These changes should net around a 20 to 25% increase in shielding to her secondary targets through mantra E. What does this all mean? Okay, so Karma has her ultimate. Her ultimate makes her basic ability stronger. For her Q, for her E, and for her W. So for all her abilities, it just enhances the ability, right? The problem here is that the problem here is that if you didn't max her shield, if you didn't max her mantra E, then using mantra E was very weak. Mantra Q wasn't that strong all the time, but even if you weren't maxing Q, it still dealt a good chunk more damage. Because it would just add flat damage to the ability, right? If you used Mantra Root, you're still getting healing, and that healing just gives you more healing, right? Problem is, Mantra's shield scaled based on the rank of your shield. So if you didn't put points in your shield, Mantra shield didn't really do anything. Okay. So what they're doing is they're detaching Mantra shield. Mantra shield now just adds a flat amount of shield with a flat amount of ability power scaling. Doesn't care how many points you've put in your shield. If you have 1 point in your shield, then Mantra shield still adds this flat amount. If you put all your points in your shield, then it still adds this flat amount. This is done to ensure that Mantra shield is always a viable option, and to ensure that support Karma can max her Q, then use Mantra shield at a time when she needs it, and it won't be a weak do-nothing ability. Additionally, they're saying it should net around a 20 to 25% increase in shielding to secondary targets. I'm going to trust them here, even though, I'm going to be honest, they might have failed at basic math again. I don't know if they did, but I sure hope we are not on another basic math fail, because it sure would be embarrassing. I hope they didn't. I mean, they said the numbers, so hopefully they actually ran the numbers, and this is actually a buff to secondary targets. Not going to think anything else. Okay, moving on. Kayn. Remember when I talk about damage creep in the game? Damage creep happens in things like this. What do I mean by this? Okay. If you look at Kayn and you look at his Q, Q's AP ratio has been going up and 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 up throughout League of Legends existence. Now it's about to be buffed into having a 1.7 AD ratio. That is a very big amount of AD ratio. To keep this into perspective for some of you guys, it used to be a 1.3 AD ratio. 1.3. It's now going to be a 1.7. So from a 1.3 AD ratio to a 1.7 AD ratio on every single Kayn Q. This champion was added in Season 7. This is not a champion in Season 1, 2, or 3 with low numbers that they brought up to date. This is a champion who was released in Season 7, largely after a lot of the power creep happened, who just continues to power creep more and more and more. This is how power creep happens. It might not seem like a lot. Oh, an 80% AD ratio to an 85% AD ratio? That's not a lot. That's not that much. That's not a big deal. Sure, it's not. Raising it from a 1.6 to a 1.7 AD ratio isn't a big deal at the end of the day. But it is a neblic. It is showing a larger problem, or once again, damage creep like this happens all the time. Damage creep just slowly happens in the league. 0.5 more AD, double that, 0.1 more AD, okay, do this, and all of a sudden, again, a mere, what are we at, 7 years ago, this ability was a 1.3 AD ratio, now it's a 1.7 AD ratio. That's a lot more damage to creep, and that's why, when we increase the amount of armor, magic resist, and health in the game, it still feels that there's so much damage in the game, because abilities are just doing a significant amount more damage than they used to. Even compared to Season 5, 6, 7, League's heyday, abilities are doing like 20, 30, 40% more damage than they used to, whereas champions are only about 20% tankier. So even compared to League's heyday, even after all these nerfs to damage, we're still at more damage than we used to have. Is that a good thing? Maybe. I don't know. Is it a bad thing? I don't know. Maybe. I can't be the one to say. We're at the point where damage hasn't creeped that much up. Obviously, last year and the year before that, damage was absurd, but with the durability patch, the nerf to keystones, with a lot of changes coming out, damage isn't that bad anymore. It's still high, but it's not that bad. But my point here, and what I'm trying to say is, this right here, changes like this is how damage creep happens. Because now, if we see a champion like Zed or Talon is underpowered, they compare him to Kayn, and they say, well, you know, compared to Shadow Kayn, this champion isn't really dealing enough damage. And you know, we go from there and we go from there. I mean, once again, I'm just going to Google this to give you guys an example. And I know I'm harping on this, but I'm trying to, you know, tell you guys I'm not crazy, because some of you guys forget about this stuff. Talon's passive is a 2.1 AD ratio. It used to be a 2 AD ratio. Now it's 2.1. It just happens. He just got an AD ratio buff, and now Kayn is getting an AD ratio buff because they looked at Talon and they said, well, Kayn's not doing enough damage compared to Talon. And why is Talon doing more AD? Because they buffed Kiana's AD ratios. And they said, well, you know, compared to Kiana, Talon... And it's like this. I'm not going to harp on it anymore. Okay. Lux. You'll never believe what's happening. Anyone want to guess? So anyway, Lux is getting her AP ratios buffed. You'll never believe that another champion is getting their scaling damage buff. You'll never believe it. I would never believe it. No one would ever believe it. Another champion getting their scaling damage buffed in another patch. That's crazy. So Lux is obviously not wonderful. I don't think she's particularly bad though. And what are they saying here? Lux support is getting hit by the ZaxX changes patch, and since she's currently at a reasonable power level, we'd like to give her a compensation buff. So we're buffing her ratios in a way that both roles will appreciate, but it should have a slight skew for mid due to the wave clear benefits. What? Okay, I guess they just didn't like that Lux would be underpowered, which I guess, you know, fair. You know, this is a change here. I can actually explain this one really easy. So basically, let me pull this number up for you guys right now. Basically, Lux is ludicrously popular. How popular? If you go to all ranks, which primarily includes the low ranks, her pick rate on support is 13.6%. That is almost 50% more than Thresh. In fact, if you compare this, boy oh boy, if we look at pick rate here, this makes Lux the 7th most picked champion in the entire game, and that is below 4 different AD carries. It's always hard to compare across champions because one of the issues is bot lane is such a meta whore lane that only picks the strongest champions because most AD carries are, you know, gonna play like each other, right? They right click. So most AD carry players will just swap to whatever champion is the most powerful on that patch. Okay, so it's always hard to compare across roles because if we took, for example, bot lane away, then the 3 most popular champions in the game would be Ahri, Lee Sin, and Lux, which makes sense, right? Especially once we start to factor in that Lux still does get picked mid lane. So at the 500,000 games of her being picked mid lane, that puts her at 2 million games, which means Lux is only picked less overall than Jinx, making her overall the 2nd most picked champion in the game, and that is with Jinx being overpowered and extremely meta hoard by bot laners. So excluding bot lane, combined, Lux is the most popular champion in the game. Did you guys know that? That's true. Excluding bot lane, Lux is the most popular champion in the game. Now, I just wanted to say all that because that's why Riot is paying special attention to Lux. And they're saying, oh no, a change is going to hurt Lux. Let's give her compensation buffs before we even figure out where she is. That's why other champions might get hit and Riot will go, eh. But for Lux, it's a big deal. It's the same thing with Yasuo. It's the same thing with certain top laners. You know, let's be honest here. It's the same thing for certain top laners like Aatrox and Darius. Maybe not to this degree where they're already preemptively buffing her, but to the same degree of like they really want to make sure that she's top tier. And they really want to make sure that low ranking Lux players can play Lux on any given patch at any given time and do well with her because she is, other than bot lane, once again, the most popular champion in the game. That's just true. That's just oddly and simply true. Okay, moving on to Nami. Nami is at one of her historically weakest points, so we think she could use a little love. In line with our other changes around support damage, we're pulling some of our mid-game damage through her E rank up and WAP ratio, and adding it into her healing and overall teamfight output with W's bouncing power. One thing I always thought was weird about Nami, I always felt like Nami was a battle enchanter. I don't know if that's a term, but I always thought of Nami more like an offensive enchanter who, like, kind of like Taric in a way, was an enchanter but also tried to hurt people. I mean, and that's obviously how her kit works. If she heals herself, it damages an enemy, right? Her E just does damage and slows. Her Q just does stun and slows. Her ultimate just does stun and slow and knock up, right? So the only support ability she has is the slow on her E and the heal on her W. This is compared to even other battle enchanters like Janna. Janna's ultimate does a knockback heal. Janna's E does a shield. She's got 2 supportive things. Nami speeds up allies, slows enemies, does damage, and heals. So she's sort of like the battlefield shifter. Slows enemies, speed boosts her allies. Damages enemies, heals her allies, right? So it's interesting to me that we're now kind of like pulling damage off Nami because they want enchanters to do less damage and support to heal more and shield more. But it's always been interesting that Nami's never really healed that much. Not really. On release, her healing was a bit higher, but never really that much. She was always more of a battle. She was always more of a mage enchanter support thing, I guess is the right way to put it. Yeah. But anyway, so what are we doing here? Nami has her W damage is going from 60 to 220 to 60 to 200. Then the AP ratio is going down 5%. So damage is getting a little bit of a hit on her W, but this gets more interesting. The healing is going up a flat 20 at rank 5, and the AP ratio is going from 0.25 to 0.4. So a large buff to the AP ratio and a buff to the flat heal. But again, it gets better. The bounce fall off is being changed. Instead of losing 15% of the damage and healing every bounce, that's being changed to 10%. Then the AP ratio is also being changed to 10%. So that means at 100 AP, Nami now does full damage and healing on every bounce of her W. Above 100 AP, she now does more damage and more healing for every bounce on her W. In other words, even with the nerfs to the magic damage on Ebb and Flow, it will likely be doing more damage throughout the game, which is interesting. It definitely does mean that Nami will be able to toss her Ebb and Flow into a team fight and get a lot of output. A lot of slows for enemies, healing for allies, damage for enemies, speed boost for allies. So this change right here is actually fairly substantial and should not be overlooked. Even with no AP at all, the damage fall off is going from 15% to 10%, meaning that even with this in mind, it will actually deal about the same damage unless you're targeting an enemy with every hit, right? Okay. Tidecaller's Blessing is going from 20 to 80 damage to 20 to 60 damage. So it's just losing 20 damage at max rank. The assumption I have here is they're trying to discourage maxing Tidecaller's Blessing and trying to heavily encourage maxing Ebb and Flow, which makes sense. I think Nami is more known for her splash. I think she's more known for her splash than that ability she keeps putting on the 80 carry that perma-slows enemies. That ability she keeps putting on Xerath that lets him perma-slow into his combo, right? Like, she's more known for the splash than being that weird mage that stands in the back and continuously buffs allies to get a weirdly high amount of damage into the game. Which is true. She does get a weirdly high amount of damage right now by not really doing anything special, which is interesting. Nasus is being buffed because Riot hates low rank. Low rank will now be more fun with Nasus being more powerful. Everyone loves it when Nasus is more powerful. More healing on Nasus is more fun. Nasus hasn't been performing so well in solo queue. Good. We feel that he scales really well but struggles in lane, as he's able to be punished harshly. We'd like to reduce some of that harshness by increasing his Q damage to help him stack and trade better when using it on his opponent early. We're also pairing this with an increase to his passive, as we nerfed it when Divine Sunder was still around and it's no longer necessary to keep it lower. I mean, it is kind of necessary to keep it lower because here's a little bit of a problemo, Riot. Remember when you guys nerfed healing debuffs after you buffed Nasus passive? Because Nasus passive was 10 to 20, then it got giga buffed over League's existence, then it finally got toned down a little bit with the nerf to healing debuffs again, but now it's back up. So Nasus passive used to be 10 to 20%, now it's 12 to 24%. So just something to think about. I also just don't enjoy this champion, and I think in old League of Legends he fit more when he stacks slower and games were longer. I feel like he fit more into the game, and when League of Legends is more stat checky and it was more like momentum based, you know, like I am early game Warwick, so I automatically win. I am late game Nasus, so I automatically win, right? Like when the game played more like that, I think he made more sense to be top tier, or at the very least playable. But now it doesn't really make any sense, and he's just a really annoying champion. He's just annoying. I just don't like him. So I'm going to be biased again. I'm going to be biased. My opinions are correct. Yes, they are. Yes, my opinions are correct. I don't think Nasus should be viable, but Nasus enjoyers, there you go. The dog do be healing. Olaf is getting a change here. They want to push Olaf jungle and they want to take away Olaf top, which I'm not going to get that much into. I do think Olaf top can have a bit of a problem, obviously. I mean, I play him a lot, I do. So don't let me, you know, change your opinion too much here. But Olaf top definitely has some problems. Hard countering some champions like Mord and Urgot without really much gameplay that his opponents can do about it. That's probably not great for game health. I'm not really sure what to say. It's just probably not good for game health that he can do that. And I would really like to see his infinite ult go away or be reworked a little bit again. Maybe he can get back to his second ult quicker, but I don't think the perma ult is good for game balance because it kind of just, like, there's a lot of champions who can't really do anything about Olaf. And if you counter pick him, he's fine. So like if someone first picks Olaf, you just trash him. But if someone second picks Olaf into some champions, it's really not that enjoyable of an experience. And yeah, so what are they doing? Undertow now does 5 to 25 more damage to jungle, which helps him jungle better. His W, the attack speed duration, is going from 4 seconds to 5 seconds, but the mana cost is going from 30 to 50. So using Tough It Out just to get a quick shield is now way more costly. But using it in a fight does more because it now lasts for longer. Reckless Swing now gets 2-second cooldown refund when you're hitting monsters, which is odd. Then Ragnarok is going from 0 mana cost to 100. That's pretty brutal, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really know what's going on that they felt the need to do that one. But it seems very much that they're trying to push Olaf out of top lane entirely with that change. Olaf is already pretty mana reliant, and needing an extra 100 mana for Ragnarok is pretty brutal because that's like rank 1, you need 100 extra mana. So like, you know, if I had the mana to use say 2 Undertows, now I can't. Now I'm down 2 Undertows, in fact more than that, because Tough It Out as its mana costs go up as well. So in reality, like you know, throughout a laning phase I could be down 3 axes. Well, those 3 axes might be what I need to actually get the kill at the end of the laning phase. So this definitely does seem directed like they want to not kill Olaf top, but relegate it basically into being a hard counter pick to Mord and Urgot and nothing else. That seems to be the only thing it's going to do after this change, because I don't really see him able to lane against most normal champions if his mana costs are going to be this absurd. Which is interesting because his mana cost used to be basically nothing other than Q, and now he's got a good mana cost on his W and a high mana cost on his R. Okay. Rek'Sai is a champion that Riot doesn't want in top lane. So what are they doing? Fury gain from minions, wards, and plants is being reduced from 12.5 to 5. Rek'Sai will generate significantly less fury from hitting minion waves. Additionally, Rek'Sai's healing is going from 12 to 20% to 10 to 20%. So early game Rek'Sai will be healing less in top lane, and she'll be generating significantly less fury. Rek'Sai seems to be a little bit overtuned right now anyway, so this isn't really a big deal. They're probably trying to nerf top lane and jungle at the same time, but here's the thing. Even with them, Rek'Sai is slightly too strong as a jungler, but not unreasonably so. But as a top laner, though, she's an immovable object. Actually, Rek'Sai's win rate is higher as a jungler than as a top laner. So I don't really know what the hell Riot is talking about. This seems to be complete nonsense. This isn't the first time Riot has just talked complete nonsense. What they're saying here is nonsense. I don't really have a better way to put it. This is just complete nonsense. No, she's actually stronger as a jungler than as a top laner. I think they just don't want another jungler going top lane and brutally stat checking their opponents into the ground. That has been a problem over time. Lee Sin, Rek'Sai, let me think of other ones here. Rengar, even Olaf, if you want to argue that, can be taken from that perspective. Udyr is another one. Zac was big for a bit. Wukong, even though they're trying to push Wukong top with the range on his Q, stat check Wukong running everyone down was a problem for a long time. There's also Trundle, who went weirdly from being a jungler to being a top laner, and then he just stat checked everyone right up until they nerfed him. Now we can't really stat check people, but you know, you get the idea. They don't really want more junglers going top lane and just stat checking the actual top laners. As a whole, The counterplay of junglers is generally to avoid them. The counterplay from top laners is to have actual in-gameplay counterplay. That's not like true 100% of the time, but I would say that's generally true enough. So like, how do you counterplay when Rengar or Warwick or Lee or Rek'Sai go top lane? What's your counterplay? Well, you just have to stat check them harder than they stat check you. Nocturne, there's another one. How do you fight Nocturne? You just have to stat check him harder than he stat checks you. Certainly doable for some champions, but often there's only like one possible gimmick to play around a champion with, right? Like if I'm fighting against Kled, I can dodge his Q, I can dodge his E, I can break his Q tether, I can play around his W, I can play around his remount. Like even on a champion like Kled, there's way more things to play around. What do I play around with Rek'Sai? Don't let her run up to you. That's it. That's literally it. That's literally all you can play around. That's it. So I'm just saying it's a good thing probably that Riot cares more about top lane. Or I shouldn't say not that they care more about top lane, but that they care about top lane at all. But I do take offense with them saying Rek'Sai is stronger in top than in jungle. She's overpowered in both roles. And we might, I mean, they are nerfing her passive no matter what, and that might affect jungle a lot. But the thing is, we are at the point where we might see a Rek'Sai nerf come in next patch for jungle. Anyways, I just take an issue with them trying to be weirdly deceptive here. Okay, so every person who's watched my videos, go into the comments, type down, did I say that adding weird jungle mods to supports was going to cause an issue? I believe I did, but you can feel free to disagree with me. Did I say that? I believe I did, but again, if I didn't, go type that down. Go say, no, there's no way you said that. So what happened? Rel has been overpowered for quite some time, both in the support role and in the jungle. The problem here is that as a support, Rel does so much damage to the jungle because they give her so many jungle mods that Rel can help leash for her jungler and obliterate the jungle, okay? Rel can go to Dragon and obliterate Dragon. Rel can do many, many, many things because she has so much damage to the jungle. She can go top lane as support, and she can help steal grubs. There's a lot of things she can do. So she's been overpowered for a while. You can see this. It's been a while. Now she's also been overpowered in pro play. Now you can see her win rate is literally going up. As you see here, like as Rel players get more and more accustomed to using their jungle mods to, you know, help clear the jungle quicker and quicker, there's definitely a problem here where, you know, Rel players are getting better at using these jungle mods, and she's just getting more and more and more overpowered. She clears Dragon faster, she leashes for her jungle faster, she can walk over, and she can, you know, try to invade the jungle, and if the invasion is good, then she can quick annihilate red buff, you know, stuff like that, right? And so the problem is the longer this goes on, the more of a problem it's going to become. Definitely an issue here, okay? And so they are removing the jungle mods entirely, giving her basic magic resist growth back. This is just a normal magic resist growth. In other words, Rel jungle is dead, and Rel support will ironically take a decent hit because it will no longer be able to clear the jungle. I have vehemently been against adding random jungle mods to any champion, because if a champion is balanced in their role and you add a mod to them, they will get way more powerful. Look no further than Darius. Darius was a balanced, reasonable champion. And in fact, let me actually bring this up. Let me see if I can find the exact patches when it happened in an amount of time. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to explain what happened. Darius was a balanced, reasonable top laner. He was a bit on the strong side, but, you know, it wasn't like game-breakingly overpowered, right? And so he existed there for a while. Here we go. We can see it right here. He existed here in a while. So you can see in patch 9, he gets buffed, and it's whatever. All throughout season 9, no problem. Middle of season 10, well, I should say early in season 10, they decide 10.4, his bleed now does bonus damage to the jungle. 10.5, that bleed has been increased. 10.6, he gets nerfed. Wait, what? Well, unfortunately, here comes the problem. Top laners, not so much anymore, but definitely back in the day, like to steal the jungle. Even these days, they like to steal the jungle. When you gave Darius more ability to help with dragons, more ability to clear Baron, more ability to steal Gromp or Krugs, more ability to steal random red or blue buffs, it buffs the champion. Even if they don't go jungle, if you give them a damage modifier against the jungle, it buffs them. There's no way to look at it otherwise. Are they stronger or weaker? They're obviously stronger, so it's a buff, right? I don't know how else you can think of it. I don't know how else your brain could work. If you get stronger, it's a buff. It doesn't matter how much stronger, it's a buff. Particularly if you make a champion strong enough that they could jungle, then you can go top lane with Darius, then use that new buff against the jungle to do many nefarious things. So I guess what I'm saying here, in effect, is deja vu. I have been in this place before. Buffing random champions to clear the jungle always ends up broken. Actually, I think it almost always ends up broken, by the way. I'm trying to think of a time when it hasn't. Talon did, broken. Darius did, broken. Blitzcrank did, broken. Rel did, broken. Let's see if Olaf ends up broken. Maybe. Although Olaf's mana costs are so high, I don't think he'll be able to use them. Wow, Senna in a patch note? How did I miss it? Wow! Bingo, 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 bingo. I got like 17 bingos right now. Just bingo, 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 bongo. Senna's in the fucking patch note again. This is the joke. The joke is Senna is in another patch note. Oh, what are they doing? Are they addressing Senna? No, just changing her passive again, just flipping it around. You never know. You never know. I mean, just flipping it around. Just flip it around. Soul drop chance on allied support minion kill from 28% to 8.4%. Yeah, let's read the thing. Fewer souls drop from allied support items killing champions. More souls drop from Senna killing minions. We noticed a bug that arrived in 14.1 that made Senna get the full drop chance from allied support item executes, which substantially increased her power as a farming bot laner. We're fixing that bug in this patch and returning her on-kill drop chance near where it was before. Bingo, bingo, 2 changes to Senna's passive in 1 patch. Is it Christmas already? Guys, I'm gonna have a goddamn competition. Okay? Whoever guesses the next patch we change Senna's passive, whoever guesses it correctly, I will call you out by name and I will say congratulations, whatever your name is. I will remember you. I will remember you this day. Whichever comment has the exact patch and is the most upvoted comment, liked comment, whatever it is on YouTube for that patch, I will shout you out. I will call it from the rooftops. Wee, you did it. Okay. So this makes how many patches since we changed Senna's passive? How many patches since we changed Senna's passive? 1. We're up to 1 patch. We did it, everybody. Yay! I literally can't. I'm shocked because, like, hold on here. Let me actually read this to you. Missed race spawn rate on minions she killed reduced to 2.7% from 8.3%. Now it's being changed from 2.8% to 8.4%. Not even to 8.3%, all the way to 8.4%. Well, obviously, with a buff this substantial, Senna must be massively under par. Like 45% win rate as an AD carry. Not even viable. Not even playable. Probably the most useless, weak, undertuned champion in the entire game. Not even playable. A 50% win rate champion? Wait a minute. That's a 50% right there. Darcy Bros! Woo! Good job, Riot. Woo! You're buffing a 50% win rate champion massively. All right, guys. Next patch. My guess, my serious, honest guess. Next patch. The very next patch. Senna changes again. Smolder. Base armor increased. Q damage based on crit chance increased. Okay. I'm not gonna read through this. I'm growing increasingly frustrated with this stupid goddamn patch. Dude, am I even gonna do the skins? Dude, I'm tired of this game. Guys, go into the description, go into the description down below and subscribe to my variety channel. And come talk and shoot the shit and just hang out when I'm streaming variety games. Because I'm getting so tired of this bullshit goddamn game. Okay, Smolder was released. Then we added percent health scaling true damage, which made him really hard to balance because percent health scaling true damage should be illegal. I'm gonna keep making this joke. Oh, I will never stop. I will never stop. You cannot stop me. No one can stop me. Riot can't stop me. No one can ever stop me. Anyway, once we added percent health scaling true damage, that should probably be illegal. I don't even know, dude. Wow, now he's getting buffed. This is gonna be fun. What do you think happens after this? What do you think happens? Crazy, awesome. Okay. Let's try to finish up these patch notes before I go goddamn crazy. Sona, passive, power chord. Bonus damage increased. Why? Her Q damage is being decreased. So her AoE damage, if you want to call it AoE damage, well, she AoE buffs allies, and that amount is being nerfed from 20% AP to 10% AP. In return, her single target power chord is being buffed a little bit. Her W is being buffed from a 15% AP ratio heal to a 30% AP ratio heal. Will that do a lot? Probably not. I don't think Sona builds that much support AP, but maybe, who knows. Song of Celerity, the movement speed that she gives to allies from 10 to 14 to 10 to 18%. Wow, awesome, interesting. Less damage, more healing. Taco Bell. I don't even know why I said that. Nobody knows why I said that. Volibear. Crits only increase Volibear's attack damage instead of total ability damage. That's right. Crit Volibear was overpowered. It was very important that we nerf it down. Yep. Basically, Riot wanted top Volibear to be viable, so they made it viable. But then they refused to address that the turning off turrets makes jungle Volibear too good. So what did they do? They did what any normal, respectable company did. Completely ignored the problem and just nerfed the shit out of him anyway. That's right. Instead of maybe removing turning towers off or anything like that, that might be a good idea. Instead, they said, no, well, what if we just continue to nerf him into the ground? Yeah, okay, cool. So I guess top Volibear is dead. Cool. I mean, it was like a cool 4 weeks or something we got. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, we'll see you guys next year. Maybe we'll try again. I don't know. He's not Lux, so we'll probably won't see any changes. Boy, oh 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 boy. Oh, we did it. I didn't even get to do my rant without Riot screwing up again. Silas's damage to jungle monsters is being increased. The explosion on his Q is going from 40% to minions and monsters to 40% to minions and 70% to monsters. That's right! Silas will now deal more damage to the jungle. Let's read the reasoning. Silas jungle has been quite a weak link for him lately, because he's not supposed to jungle. But he has had a player base that we'd like to support. Why? Since he lacks any room mid, we're separating his Q modifier to hasten his jungle clear. This change isn't intended to make Silas a top tier jungler, but rather make him a more functional for those who play it. For now, we're staying on the safer side of this initial buff and revisit his jungle clear as needed. Why though? Like, here's your problem. If you succeed and Silas is now a more pickable champion, then he now becomes a more flex pickable champion, leading to pro play problems. Or alternatively, his win rate goes up because his opponents don't know if they're picking Silas jungle or picking Silas mid, and then they don't know if they can counter pick him safely. Or worse yet, buffing Silas's ability to clear the jungle just makes his mid lane even stronger. In other words, this is a stupid change that has nothing but negatives. Positive, a very small player base of like 7 people who want to play Silas jungle are happy. Negatives, the game gets screwed up for a patch or two. Awesome. Items, Zax is being nerfed. They really need to go through it. The cooldown is being massively increased by 8 to 6 second cooldown to a flat 10. Then the damage is going from 20 to 10 and 4% health damage to 3%. So it'll have a longer cooldown and do less damage. Papa John's. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm just regurgitating anything. My brain is rotting from this stupid game. Blood Song. See Zack for more context. We're nerfing Blood Song because having an almost Trinity for free might have been seen as a bit unacceptable and made things like Camille support and Pantheon support a little bit too good and too manageable. Personally, no, I don't think Camille support and Pantheon support should be one-shotting the ADC. That probably leads to bad gameplay. Are they a player? Do they deserve to play the game? Yes, but the problem is these champions should have to lane just the same as the AD carry they're playing against. They should have to lane and get to that point to actually be able to do that, opening themselves up to risk. People who don't open themselves up to risk but get to scale extremely well, which is now supports and junglers, but will now only be junglers, it's bad for the game. Junglers should not be scaling if they're that safe. Supports should not be scaling if they're that safe. Look, the problem comes down to risk reward. I do believe that supports are a real player. It's a 5-man team, not a 4.5-man team, right? But the problem is supports get to dominate the early game and then they still get to scale pretty well because of their items. The problem with that is that then the players who do have to lane and they do have to get shit on, the top laners and the bot laners, they do go through this long, arduous process of building up, but then are they stronger than these other players? Debatably, but not really actually by that much. And that's kind of a problem, don't you think? Imperial Mandate is being nerfed. Wow, because, yeah, I mean, supports are doing too much damage. Static Shiv is having its cost go up because I just don't get tired of Riot messing with Static Shiv. It's overpowered, it's underpowered, it's overpowered, it's underpowered, it's overpowered, it's underpowered, it's overpowered, it's underpowered. Oh, wow. I wonder why we removed this item. Do you think we removed this item because the exact problem we're going through? It can't have good wave clear or it removes all interaction. Okay, fine. It can't scale or it's overpowered. It can't scale, it can't have good wave clear. Okay, we'll just make it a stat stick. Oh no, now it's a stat stick. Now it's way too effective to rush. Now it's overpowered. Wait, so what good is this item? What good is Static Shiv? No, there's a legitimate question. I would very much like Freak to answer it. If Static Shiv can't have wave clear, and it can't have good damage, and it can't scale, and it can't be a stat stick, why did we add it back into the game? What is the purpose behind this item? Is it just the really boring version of Phantom Dancer? Is it the less interesting version of Kraken Slayer? Is it just the be safe and wave clear item? Is it the Giga Stat Stick item? I don't know what separates this item anymore in an interesting, meaningful way from other items, other than it's just a really cost efficient item, but now its cost is going up. So what is it? Why is this item interesting? Other than you're freak, so you missed the good old days. Why are we adding this item? I don't even know, man. Okay, World Atlas is being nerfed so that you can't go double support item. That's all this says. This seems to have been a last minute change. I didn't know this one was going to happen, but there we go. Here's some ARAM balance changes. Cool, look at it. It's awesome. Here's a quick play update. I don't care. I rarely play quick play. Let's look at these bug fixes. Okay. Fix an issue that caused Sundered Sky to not crit after canceling the previous auto attack. That's kind of shitty, so it's good they fixed that. Fix a bug where God King Darius' Noxian Guillotine would damage the target enemy if Darius was stunned before the ability animation played. That's odd, but that just seems to be a skin problem, because to my knowledge, the cast time of the ability shouldn't be affected by this skin. Unless it is being affected by the skin, then that's a problem. If they're saying that God King Darius' R was too fast, then just say his R was too fast. Animations are just visual. They should have absolutely nothing to do with the damage of the ability. Okay, it doesn't look like any of these do anything at all to the game's balance. Okay. Upcoming skins and chromas. Durian Defender Rammus. It's Rammus? This doesn't look that different. Maybe in-game it looks different. To me, this doesn't look terribly different. Choo Choo Ornn. It's Ornn and he's a train conductor. I know if I was an Ornn player and I played him for years and years, that I would finally want a stupid comic relief skin, because Ornn is a stupid comic relief champion. Of course, that's exactly how I think of him. How come, okay, serious question, and this is like actually, I'm gonna have to call bias on this one, prejudice even. How come top laners get all this stupid meme skins? It's like top laners and supports, but I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of top laners that aren't like pure comic relief champions get comic relief skins as like their only skin for that decade. Kled did, Ornn did, Urgot did. Urgot got a new skin and it had the goddamn stove on him because it was funny. Haha. It's like Wild West Urgot, so he's got a Wild West stove on him. It's funny, guys. Hey, enjoy your one skin for this decade. Cool, I guess. Not really that cool. Cheddar Chief Twitch Zesty Dip Zach. Okay, I can say this. I appreciate these skins a lot more. Even though I don't agree with Choo Choo Ornn, I will say I appreciate these skins a lot more for one simple reason. What is that reason? They are not a generic copy-paste skin line. And in fact, we've got a lot of cool skins here. Although, wow, another comic relief skin for a top laner who isn't a comic relief champion. Oh, it's almost like I said that. So here we got the Cheddar Chief Twitch Zesty Dip Zach. I actually think this is funny. I mean, these are all obviously intended to be comic relief skins, but hey man, at the very least, it's not like a copy paste skin line that sucks. I could see myself using, what even is that? Cheddar Chief Twitch? That's a cool skin. I like that skin. That's a really cool skin. That's actually amazing. Pyramid head, but it's Twitch with cheese on his head? That's incredible. No, seriously, I'm not even joking. That's actually wonderful. The Zac skin, yeah, whatever, who cares? Ornn, whatever. And then we got Toy Terror Cho'Gath. It's Cho'Gath as a toy dinosaur. I want to see in game, does he look like that? Because if he does, that'd actually be kind of cool. Darian Defender Rammus, it literally just looks like Rammus. I don't know if my camera was panned above Rammus, I don't think I'd be able to tell that that was actually a skin. Choo Choo Ornn, it's Ornn, and I presumably assume that his ultimate is a choo-choo train and he hits it at people. I'm going to assume that's what it does. Okay. Cheddar Chief Twitch. Wow. Holy crap. That's actually really cool. Okay. Hands off. This is like my favorite skin in quite some time. That's an amazing skin. That's incredible. That's wonderful. Okay. Toy Terror Cho'Gath. I don't approve. I'm gonna be two-folded with this one. I don't approve of another non-comic relief top laner getting a comic relief skin as their only skin in 12 years. But if I was to get a comic relief skin, this would pretty much be the one I wanted. Yeah, this is a skin. This is very different from the other Cho'Gath skins. Is it perhaps too different? Maybe, but that's really goddamn funny. Yeah, no, I approve of this one. I approve of this one. This one's, it could have been better. Could have been better. I don't think they really stuck the landing. I mean, they got like 80% there, but then they fumbled a little bit. But it's fine. It's fine, right? What do we got here? Zesty Dip Zach. Isn't there already a piss yellow Zach skin? And everyone just uses it for the piss yellow. I don't really know what this skin changes, but is he just supposed to be a cheddar dip? Zesty. What's it called? Zesty dip? It's supposed to be like a nacho cheese dip? I mean, some of these chromas aren't bad. He's got like actual Doritos. I mean, oh, okay, he does. Yeah, he has the Doritos in him. Or the tortillas or the chips. You know what I mean? All the Mexicans in chat are about to hit me. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Anyway, yeah, I like the pineapples too. I mean, it's cool. I like the chroma. Honestly, not too bad. Cosmic Sting Skarner. Boring as shit. Boring. Oh, I'm playing there. Copy paste. Copy paste. Oh, wait. Okay. Honestly, Cheddar Chief Twitch 10 out of 10. Toy Terror Cho'Gath 11 out of 10, but also I hate it. Choo Choo Ornn 8 out of 10. Darian Defender Rammus 6 out of 10. Zesty Dip Zach 6 out of 10. Some of the best skins I've seen in a very long time coming from Riot, though. I just wish they would also stick some cool, badass-looking skins. I mean, there have been some over the years, but none that I can particularly remember. The most badass skins of all time are probably, like, Cowboy Darius. Of all time, I don't know if I'd include Cowboy Darius of all time. Definitely the best skin ever made is High Noon Lucian. The Oni Aatrox is pretty good. Blood Moon Aatrox is also really good. Obviously the demon Yasuo is outrageously good and has basically set the bar for badass skin for a very long time. Between Demon Yasuo and Demon Lucian, I think those have basically been the bar for best badass skins. I wish Riot could get back to that level. Some of the skins have been okay, like the Inuyasha set skin was okay, but that's mostly, I mean, it was okay, it was good, it just didn't, it wasn't like that amazing. It was good though, it was okay. But I mean, this is more of a return to actual skins and not just copy paste Chinese stuff. I'm not trying to be, once again, you guys know me, I'm not trying to be anti-Chinese. I'm not trying to do like the fucking, you know, anti-China bit, like, oh, China owns the world now, we must bow to our Chinese over. Like, I'm not trying to do that, right? But I'm trying to say, like, a lot of them were Chinese copy paste for a very, very, very long time. In fact, we will likely go back to Chinese copy paste here pretty quickly. So it's good to see some stuff here that's actually rather interesting. So I just wanted to give, you know, good compliments to Riot here. Good job on this. I actually appreciate this. Good job, very good job. I kind of went over an hour here, and I kind of accidentally hit some stuff I needed to do. So I won't be reading the Patreon members, but everyone who's subscribed to my Patreon, I support you. I love you. Please continue to subscribe to my Patreon. You benefit me immensely, and I could not be me without you. So definitely continue to subscribe and support me on Patreon if you want me to be able to continue to do these videos. That special shout out to all my YouTube members, my Kick subscribers, as well as well, that's about it. Anyone who comments, anyone who donates, anyone who does anything. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. And as always, have a great rest of your day.